All right, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? We
Excellent.
got we got a great guest today on the Jeremiah 29 Foundation podcast. We have no other than the great elder, the one that's been teaching me a lot many years. Today we actually going to be speaking on the situation of the Black Hebrew Israelites and our people and the plight of our people. And the elder that we have today is he's been in the faith for a very, very long time, and we're gonna allow him to introduce himself and for the most part just take notes on what he got to say. So go ahead, elder.
Okay. I am Elder Elnatan from Philadelphia. I've been in this work for over 50 years. I came into this knowledge in 1973 officially. Uh, that's when I joined the congregation, but I had knowledge of this in earlier years. But if I would talk about anything, it would be the condition of the Israelites in America. We are not doing anything to help our people. We spend a lot of time debating, trying to find out who is right about Scripture, but we're not doing anything uh, productive. We need to be producing something other than words. Um, we need to be doing something for our community. If we don't do it, who will?
That's right.
I don't see anybody else coming around to help uh, the Hebrew Israelites or to help our people. We have a duty because we know who we are. We have a duty to our people, not just to um, tell them they're wrong, they're following the, you know, uh, false deities. Listen, I've come to the point where if whatever you believe in is working for you, then that's fine because that's where you are in your life. And not to say that I'm further along, but we're in different places. We're in
That's right.
different dimensions of our life. And so, what is stopping us from coming together without having to have the same ideology? What is stopping us from coming together to build something, to build a an economy amongst ourselves, to do business with ourselves? This is where you know we need to stop having what I would call religious debates and get down to working with each other, irregardless of our ideology. Whether you only believe in the Old Testament, the Tanakh, or if you believe in the New Testament, we each are at a particular point in our life, and regardless of what we believe, we know who we are, and that should be enough for us to work together. Other nations, they don't always agree you know with each other, but they find a way to work together.
I got a
So
question.
yeah,
You say you've been in the faith for over 50 years.
yeah.
So when you look at Black America specifically, do you see any improvement or do you see us uniting more now or do you think you were more united back when you were actually started in the faith?
Um, I would say we're having the same debates that we were having 50 years ago.
Mm,
That's we're still arguing about the things that we argued about or debated about 50 years ago when I came in.
mm. Do
And
you
so,
think do you
go ahead.
think that when it comes down to us moving forward as a people, as the so-called his Hebrew Israelites, do you think that we have progressed in any way, like as a nation, since then?
With the exception of one group, I don't see, we're more separated than we were when I came in.
Mm,
You know, everybody has their own little fiefdom, their own little uh, piece of the pie. And we tend to think of our people as congregations, and we see those congregations as different from us. We have no we don't have any national organization. We don't have we don't have a unified response to things that go on in this world. There's no, I mean, we have no unity. We're just little groups of Israelites scattered around the country with no purpose. We talk about um, the scriptures, but nobody's talking about leaving. We've become comfortable in America, and so when you look at what's happening in America, America's going. Look, it's not the problem right now. We suspect is Donald Trump, but Donald Trump's not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. You know, these people have been working for, let's see, about 60 years
mm.
on their agenda. And that agenda is Christian nationalism. And it may not happen in this election, but they're going to keep trying. And when they do, we will find ourselves in a very precarious position.
Do you
And
believe
when
that? Do you believe that in today's time we have a actual chance in moving the people towards unity now in 2024 with the things that's going on or in taking place, or do you think that it's just an endless battle of what we've been going through these past 50 years? Do you think that we people are waking up to uniting, or do you think that it's just waste of time?
well, I would say that maybe there's a segment of the Israelite community that is working towards unity, but I I don't really see it. I don't see it happening because we spend a lot of time debating, and you know, I um I stopped debating. Uh, I will have a conversation with you about scripture, but I won't try to get you to come over my side. Okay, I will have a conversation with you and to see what you understand, how you understand it. But that does not preclude us from working together. Because I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to work with me,
That's right.
and that's been my stand for 50 years.
What is your stance on actually working with people outside of the United States and other nations?
Oh, I'm already doing that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm on a conference call every Yom Rishon, every Sunday, with Israelites from Israel, Israelites from various countries in Africa, Israelites in Europe, in London, and Israelites in the States. And what we're trying to do is to move the Israelite community forward. And we've got a couple of things coming up. Uh, I think in December, the latter part of December, um, we've got a program coming up, a writers' conference. And this organization has done a writers' conference for I don't know how many years. When I became a part of this organization in the early 2000s, they were already on this track. And so now it's 2023, so they've done at least 20 of these writers' conferences.
mm,
And then uh, next next year, we're going to be doing the State of the World Conference. And
wow,
included in that is the State of Africa. Um, Maybe we need to find a section for the state of the Israelites in America, uh, because we're fragmented. When I was in Philadelphia at Beit Hepzibah, uh, and Beit Hepzibah is no longer functional, except uh, I'm introducing Beit Hepzibah online, uh, Beit Hepzibah Institute of Advanced Studies, because that's where I am at this point. Um, we're talking about bringing how do we bring peace to the world? Because if the Israelite function or purpose is, it's said that the seed of Abraham should be a blessing to all the nations. Well, right now, we're not even a blessing to ourselves.
that's right.
So, how can we become a blessing to all the nations until we find the wherewithal to come together with ourselves? And we don't have to see the problem has been over the years that we needed to have the same ideologies, because what we come together about is the things that we see differently. That's been our modus operandi since I've been involved. We come together to talk about what we have that is different. We
Right.
rarely, if ever, come together to talk about what we have in common and what we can do together.
That's beautiful that you said that because in truth, that's the whole purpose of this movement that I'm starting with the Jeremiah 29 Foundation because the Almighty gives us the blueprint. when it comes to captivity. You know, we still believe that we are in captivity, but yet we have not sought to fulfill the instructions that he gave to the Israelites in Babylon. And it seems like that's, to me, is the real remedy of unity, us building these communities that it tells us in Jeremiah 29.
Yeah,
And I want to know, what do you think about, where should we start with building that? Do you think that we should use the tools that we have to network with other nations to start our building, or do you think that we should just start with the little crumbs that we have now and try to build up slowly? Or do we use the resources of like other countries, like you said, with Africa and the various other nations that you talked about? Do you feel that this is the time where we can actually take quantum leaps in creating the, just like the other nations do when they come to America, they use the resources of other countries to boost their communities in the United States? You think that we
yeah.
had that chance?
But we don't have. We are not together, so we can't go somewhere as a unified body. Listen, we have people in Israel, in Demona, that speak to the heads of state in Africa, and we don't even know it. We don't even know it. Um, let me let me tell you the story of the group of Israelites, and some of the people that I've talked to, they don't even know we have Israelites in Israel. Been there for over 50 years.
Mm,
The Israelites in Demona, Israel, they got there a mere 20 years after Israel was even a state. Israel became a state in 1948. In 1970, a contingent of Hebrew Israelites entered Israel. Been there ever since. And they've tried to deport us. They did deport some people, but some of them have status, meaning they have either permanent residency or citizenship. Now, the Jewish contingent in Israel has not totally accepted us, but we do have allies. We do have allies in Israel. Other than that, they would have deported all of us. Now, I became a part of that organization in the early 2000s. Uh, I am no longer an official part of that organization, but I am affiliated with them through the Beit Hepzibah Institute of Advanced Studies, and we're working at a high level. Um, Many Israelites would be shocked at what we're doing. I'm talking about the group um, in Israel and myself uh, and other Israelites, in America. But they're working, and they have a governmental structure They speak with heads of state in Africa, which they call Southern Eden, because Israel is on the tectonic plate that includes Africa. So Israel is in Africa. It always has been. In fact, up until the time that they created the Suez Canal, you could walk from Israel into Egypt. Only the Suez Canal separates, makes that separation now where you can't walk. But Israel has always been a part of Africa. The people have always been a melanated people. Uh, and if that is our home, then I, I don't see anybody rushing to get out of here.
Right.
You
Do
know,
you believe that the mentality of someone or basically the messianic mentality of just wanting someone to do the work for us, you think that that's what holds us back as a nation than
yeah.
us doing it and understanding that we have the power ourselves to like make the moves necessary to gain our liberation?
Well, see, we're waiting on the Creator, but we have to do something. We can't just wait on the Creator. Look, the Creator didn't leave us, so what are we waiting for? The Creator to come back to us? No, the process is we come back to the Creator.
Right.
So, what is it that we are waiting for? The 400 years is up. The 400 years is up. The 400 years was not pertaining to Egypt. We only spent about 215 years in Egypt
Mm,
because the the problem is we have this our scriptures are not in alignment because in the Septuagint it says that from the time that Abraham went down into Egypt till the time of the Exodus was 430 years. Not from the time that the Israelite went into Egypt under, with Jacob and his sons. So the first thing we don't understand is that the 430 years we're not spent in Egypt. We spent about 215 years as a people in Egypt. The 400 years is pertains to us. Now, a lot of people say, well, we came here in 1619. So in 1619, what's 400 years after that?
right. 2019.
Yeah. But the truth is, only the slaves that came to America came in 1619. The majority of the first slave trades were sent to South America. Only maybe, but maybe about 20 to 25% of the slave trade came to America. But when the Portuguese they began the slave trade, the Portuguese they they went to Brazil. The Spanish They went to other parts of South America. It wasn't until the English got involved in the slave trade that slaves from Africa, which are we know as to be Israelites,
Right.
came to the United States. So it's well over 400 years.
Mm.
So we are like a, you know, some people in prison, they become, uh, they don't know how to navigate outside of prison. So when they
Right.
come out of prison, they fall back into their old habits and they wind up going back in prison. Well, we're like a prisoner that the gates open and we don't want to leave. You ever seen a dog was caged up so long that when you open the cage, he won't go out?
That's right.
We're like that.
Yeah,
The,
that's the elephant in the rope syndrome.
yeah, yeah. So we're so um, comfortable in America. We got creature comforts. You know, and I've talked to some people that uh, they, they say, well, I don't know anything about Africa. I don't want to go. They're living in huts and stuff. Look, they got skyscrapers in Africa just like they got here, except they're newer.
Mm.
you know, uh, if you now right now it's very difficult to get into Israel, but you can go to Ghana. You can go literally anywhere in Africa. Some places are more stable than others. But some states in America are more stable than others. You know, uh, at one time we were talking about going to Israel, and everybody was saying, "Well, they're fighting over there. They're fighting over here. How many black folks get killed on a holiday weekend?"
Right.
Okay, there was just one a couple of, a few weeks ago,
Mm, mm, mm.
and so they may be fighting over there. Well, now it's all out war, um, but the people in Demona have never had to go into shelters
Mm.
because the Palestinians know who we are. I was in Israel in 2009, and for a couple of weeks, and I had dinner with a Palestinian who looked. You could put him on any street corner, any black street corner in America, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Well,
He looked like me, except he was darker. So the Palestinians know who we are. When our people would approach a uh, checkpoint, our people would approach a checkpoint that was operated by the Palestinians. They would just wave us through, and
mm.
because they knew who we were by the way we dressed, and they would say when we would go through the checkpoint, they would wave their hands and say Yakai, Yakai. So they know who we are. They understand that we are the people that came back from the captivity.
Mm, mm, mm.
And so in time, in time, and remember, how many years did it take for uh, for us to take control of the entire country?
That I don't know. I haven't did the calculations on that.
It took hundreds of years.
Right.
All right, we we went into the land in 1407 BCE. That was when um, that was the 40 years in the wilderness. We left Egypt in 1447 BCE. Now, um, the standard uh, uh, timeline does not agree with the biblical timeline. They say that we left Egypt in the 13th century BCE, when in fact we left in the middle of the 15th century BCE. Ramesses was not the pharaoh of the Exodus. Ramesses is what? Maybe, let's see, about 400 or 500 years after the Exodus. There was no Pharaoh Ramesses, not Ramesses the first, and not definitely not Ramesses the second in 1447, because they're dealing with, well, first, here's how they calculated that. They saw Ramesses on a carving in Egypt. Now, it says that we built the city of Ramesses. Well, the city that we built was called, uh, I can't think of the name right now. I'll think of it. But the city of Ramesses was built on top of that. Um, so the the fact that the statement that we built the city of Ramesses was an anachronism, because if you say that the Dutch built the city of New York, you would be correct in one way, but you would be wrong in another way, in that the city that they built was New Amsterdam.
Right.
It wasn't New York. It wasn't New York until the English came in. So to say that the Dutch built the city of New York is incorrect. They built the city of Amsterdam, and then the English built the city of New York. So we built the city. Uh, um, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. Um, but later, the city of Ramesses was built on top of that. So it's incorrect to say that we built the city of Ramesses, but the writer was talking about the name of the city in his day,
Right.
in his time. We built a city in Goshen, and the name escapes me, but I can look it up. But we left Egypt in 1447 BCE, and that's verified with the statement that the beginning of the building of the temple was in the fourth year, I believe, of Solomon. And so if you count, If we know when Solomon lived and died. So if you take the fourth year of Solomon's reign, I believe it was the fourth year. I could be wrong. But if you take the fourth year of Solomon's reign and you understand when that occurred, because Solomon ruled in the 10th century, it states, Scripture states that 480 years after the Exodus, that Solomon, in his fourth year, began the building of the temple. Well, if Solomon was in the 10th century, then 480 years back would now be the 15th century BCE. So we left in the middle of the 15th century uh, to come into to the Exodus. And if there's a book out called Pharaohs and Kings, it was also titled, um, I forget the original title, but the Pharaohs and Kings is by an Egyptologist um, named David Roll, and there's also a video about it. Um, so it's proven that we were in Egypt and that we left Egypt around the middle of the 15th century BCE.
So
But
I got a question.
sure,
When we say about going back to Israel, do you think that it's a chance that we can create a little Israel over here in the Americas?
no, absolutely.
So you believe that we
We
can't
will never
create a
be free.
portion of the
We will
United
never be
States?
free in America. America is not our home, and we will never be independent. If we could, how would we do it?
Right.
I I would say that we can build an economy, an internal economy while we're in America, and be better off than we are now. But ultimately, you know, this is stolen land. This is stolen land. Now, my great grandmother was a Native American,
Mm.
and so from that perspective, I could claim this to be my home. But my great, well, I don't know about my great grandfather, but my grandfather is an Israelite. So that means my father is an Israelite and I am an Israelite. And so, if to have a nation, you have to have you have to have land. And so, listen, it, Elijah Muhammad tried to get a separate place, part of a land in America, but that wasn't going to happen. See, back in the 70s and 80s, there was a move, and I supported it. And in fact, uh, I suggested that we move to Mississippi. Why? Because Mississippi was the place that the least amount of black folks to move in there, we could take over Mississippi because we already had a lot of black folks in Mississippi, and it wouldn't take too much for us to turn the tide. But nobody wanted to go to Mississippi.
Right.
Yeah, nobody wanted to go to Mississippi. But with we could vote our way into power in Mississippi. But
I look at
you know,
the when you look at the spending power of the Black Americans, do you believe that with that type of economic resource we can buy our land, just like as
we
it was
we
the
as a
Louisiana Purchase?
we as a people, the money that passes through our hands would even well, it used to make us um, become in the top 10 nations of the world. Now we're down to like maybe the top 15. So we have money, but we spend poorly.
Right.
You know, we want to look rich, and rich people don't care about looking rich.
That's right.
We buy all the designer clothes. We buy designer clothes for our babies,
They don't even know what's going on.
and they don't even know what's going on, and they can't wear them for no more than a year because they're gonna outgrow them.
Right. And
We
it's
have
it's
people.
it's amazing that you say that too, because when you look at what we left out of slavery with was half of 1% of the wealth and resources of this country, and yet
Mhm.
today in 2024 we still are owning less than half of 1% of this country's wealth and resources.
We've made no economic progress. We just we make more money than we used to, but everybody makes more money than they used to.
Right.
But the money that passes through our hands is enough to make us the to put us in the top. I think it's 12 or 13
Yeah, I
nations.
believe so too.
It used to be top 10 when I was growing up. It used to be we were in the top 10.
Mm,
So we've actually lost ground, but we're still within the top 12 or 13 nations in the world with the money that passes through our hands. But we spend poorly. We don't spend with ourselves because we don't trust each other.
right. Where
Um,
would you think the first step, especially when you look at even in the Hebrew Israelite community, what would be the first step to change that paradigm when it comes to us spending outside of our race and trying to get the
food,
dollar to actually bounce in our community?
food,
Right.
food. Because there's no ideology about food. Everybody eats, everybody gets hungry. We have black farmers, we have Israelite farmers, we have Muslim farmers, we have Christian farmers, we have farmers that don't do anything. They don't have any religion. They're just black farmers. If we were able to set up, and this it's been done on a small scale, um, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but there's a congregation in Philadelphia that every summer um, they had connections with some farmers down south, and they would bring their produce to Philadelphia and it would sell it. If we could put the buyers and the growers together,
Right.
we could we could buy from ourselves at wholesale
That's right.
We could buy wholesale and distribute it to our congregations.
That's
And so, you know, that doesn't involve your ideology.
right.
It doesn't even involve your religion. But what it would do, it would make the dollar
Bounce.
at least circulate within ourselves. A dollar in the black community, on
Doesn't even last
average,
a day.
it does not circulate even one time.
Wow.
On average, we give our money to everybody else. Everybody profits off us. We don't profit off of ourselves. We need to exploit ourselves instead of letting anyone else exploit us. We need programs. And so programs take leadership. And leaders are I, I don't know if they're afraid to expose their group to other groups. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they think that if they need to hold on to their congregation or their uh, camp or whatever, because if leaders come together, then the people come together.
That's
But
right.
I was going to say, uh, back in the, I don't know if it was 80s, in Philadelphia, we had an organization called we had two organizations, the Council of Israelite Leaders. This was citywide. In fact, um, at some point, we pulled in some people from Baltimore and some people from New York.
Mm.
And what we did was, the other organization was the Men of Men of Israel General Assembly, and that was all the brothers and sisters. The sisters had their own organization, so we had the Men of Israel General Assembly, and we had the Council of Israelite Leaders. This was citywide in Philadelphia, and it did not matter what our ideology was. We worked together. We did um, uh, lectures together,
Mm.
and so I've seen it work on a small scale. I've seen it work, and so right now everybody wants to be. my, my elder used to say, everybody wants to be the big Mahuff. You know, everybody wants to lead Israel back to the Holy Land. Well, that that job's already been done. See, we now I know I'm going to upset some people, but we have to understand that a prophet has been amongst us, and most of us don't even know he was here. He's come and gone,
Mm.
and most people, most Israelites, don't even know that it
Mm.
happened. Um, Now, we have people that in the 19th century, that's when the Israelite movement came full blown after emancipation, because you had Prophet Crowdy and what was his name? Prophet Cherry. Now, you know, were they real prophets? Well, I don't. What is it that they prophesied? They allowed us to know. They taught us who we were.
Right.
Right. They taught us who we were, but they were not prophets per se. But if the measure of a prophet is that the message he says that he received from the Creator, if it comes to pass, that is the criteria for a true prophet.
Mm.
Well, no matter how you look at it, in 1966, Ben Ami had a visit from the angel Gabriel, according to him.
Mm.
The message was, it is time to start the Exodus back to the Holy Land. And the Exodus will start in 1967. So the vision came in 1966. So now he struggled with this because he, he was uncomfortable. He was not the leader of that congregation. And he felt like if he spoke this, he would be ostracized, he would be ridiculed. But it weighed on him to the point that he had to speak it. And true to the message from the angel Gabriel, the Exodus began in 1967.
Wow.
And by and they first went to um, Liberia, and that was in their eyes the wilderness of the peoples. And because they went there to purge themselves of all of the attitudes that they had gained in America. And by 1970, they were in Israel. The next thing that the angel Gabriel said to Ben Ami was to declare the kingdom of God or the kingdom of Yah as it was prophesied in the second uh, chapter of Daniel. So in 1977, after they had been there, for some years, they declared the kingdom of Yah. So now, they they weren't perfect. They weren't perfect. And so when I became a part of it, there were some things that were happening that I said, well, you know, I wasn't here when these things were going on. And the KOY has some baggage that I'm not willing to carry
Mm.
because uh, myself and the other Elder Levi, we said, well, we would join, we would become a part of this. And the reason why I became a part of it, why we became a part of it, was they were doing everything we said that needed to be done. Okay, they had their own schools. They have the top rated school in Israel
Mm.
today. They have their own schools. They feed themselves. They have their own land. They grow their own crops, and they feed themselves. They teach themselves, and they work together. and they built a community. Or in the face of the authorities trying to deport them. Now, at some point, they actually became citizens. And now some people will say, well, you know, the Jews still run the country. Yeah, but like I said before, it was hundreds of years between uh, the incident or the taking of uh, the city of uh, Jericho until King David. Now, King David was the first to consolidate the entire country. So it took, what, about 400 years
Mm.
when we went into the land to the point that we controlled all the land.
Mm.
King David was in the 10th century. We came into Israel in 1407 or thereabouts, give or take a couple of years. So it took us a while to get control of the country, and it will take us a while longer to get control of our land because at some point it has to happen because the Jews who are there today, are they converts? Probably. But what is taught to us about converts? You treat them as the homeborn.
Right.
So we will take control of that land at some point in time. But we have to have enough people in that land. And we already know that we can bring peace with the Palestinians because we already have that kind of relationship with them.
Right.
And so, this is one thing that I think a lot of people need to know about. Uh, and you may disagree, but you can't deny that the prophecy came to pass. You can't deny that if he got a message that the Exodus would start in 1 year, and it happened. What do you call him a prophet
Mm.
or not? I don't know. That's up to every individual. I personally, I say that he was a prophet. Now, some of the people that left with him, in their understanding, which is not unusual, they understood that he was anointed because of the prophecy. But because most of our people grew up in Christianity, they looked at him as the Messiah.
Wow.
But there is no such thing as the Messiah.
Mm.
That when you say the Messiah, when you put that uh, word in front of it, that means something different because that means there's only one Messiah. So there's only one anointed. See, this word Messiah has us all twisted up because it just means anointed. And there were many. Every king was anointed. Every priest was anointed. Every prophet, and it didn't take that you had to go through the anointing ceremony that the priest went through. If that were the case, I could say I'm anointed because in my raising up to become an elder by the my elders, you know. Now it wasn't the oil that uh, that is in the scriptures, but they anointed me. Okay, but I'm not anointed in that sense. But there is no such thing as Hamashiach, the Messiah. That's a Christian concept. That's not an Israelite concept. So when we're speaking of the Messiah, then that automatically connects us with Yeshua
Mm.
because that's where the concept of the Messiah came from. So it automatically throws us back into Christianity when we're talking about the Messiah. I will say this: at the time that they left in 1966, I was still in the army in 1966.
Oh yeah.
You know, I spent 6 years in the army. So I got out. I came out in 1967. At the
Do you
time of
believe? Do you believe that that our people shouldn't deal with the military? Do you think that that's something that could, um, like,
deal with
do
deal
you
with
think
what
that people could benefit from it, or actually like not deal with it? Because I know some people do look at the military as a way to, give resources and be able to get a head start in life. And
well, I wouldn't advise it in these times. I went into the military, and remember this was 1961, and the trend for African Americans when they graduated from high school, the one thing that was open to them was the military.
mm,
So I went in the military because I wasn't going to college. I didn't have no money to go to college. So I went in the military, and at that time in 1961, you could pick any school that you qualified for, and they had to give you that school, or your enlistment was null and void.
mm,
So that's where I learned computer technology, and that was what I did for my adult life. I worked on computers, but I got that training in the military, and I went specifically. You know, I wasn't trying to go into paratroopers, not because I was afraid of jumping out of planes, but there is no uh, employment agency that's looking for people that know how to jump out of planes.
right.
you know, you know that's not a civilian job. So I didn't go intending to make a career. I went because that was the next best thing for me to gain a skill. And it wouldn't cost me anything. It cost me some time, but I traded some time for some education. And when my time was up, my 6 years, I reenlisted because I had a plan. I said, look, I spent about a year in school and then 2 years working on computers. And so my thing was, okay, if I come out of the army and I have 5 years experience,
Right.
anybody's gonna hire me. I never had trouble getting a job. But it was a new field, and I had 5 years of experience because
Mm.
nobody was going to hire me with no experience. And so I figured, hey, 5 years of experience,
And
I'm good.
that that's what I wanted to ask you too. Especially since you brought up the skills. When you even look at Jeremiah 29 in the scriptures when it say build ye houses, right?
Right.
Do you believe that that's something that was lost in the black community? Is the ability to have these various skills?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I have an aunt in New Jersey. Uh, she's 88, 89 years old. Um, I just went a couple months ago. I just went to help her out because she was having some trouble getting around. But it's my mother's youngest sister. Um, her house, beautiful house. Her house was built by her husband and her brother-in-law,
Wow. Wow.
and her brother put in the plumbing and
Wow.
heating.
Wow.
And to this day, that house is still standing.
That's
It's a
beautiful.
beautiful house. But they built. I was fascinated. I was a kid. Well, I was not a young kid, but I was still a kid. And I watched them build that house from scratch.
That's amazing. And that's one thing that I looked at is that could be, especially in today's times, because they already it's the statistics out there saying that this is the lowest actual enrollment in the trades. Like I did plumbing for the union. I did
Mm-hmm.
4 years for the local in Ohio, in
Mm.
Cincinnati. And what you're seeing is a lot of our generation is not enrolling into the trades. So I'm
No.
looking at it like this could be a space for our people to take over. We got the Mexicans and the immigrants and the various other people trying to come over to take over that space. But at the same time, this is something that we had control of back in the earlier times because, when they came up with the so called union, it was really against us to keep
Oh
us
yeah.
having these jobs and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, like, if we can start back taking a strong hold of them because AI and the robots can't replace a plumber and electrician and HVAC,
Right. Right.
service work in people's houses. You know what I mean? So, what's your thoughts on us getting back to the trades?
Well, we need our own apprentice program.
Right.
I my I had an uncle here in Philadelphia. He was the first black union plumber in the city of Philadelphia,
Wow.
and he passed it on to his son, my cousin, and he's about a year younger than me. He's about 80, and he's retired, but he he uh, he had a plumbing business.
That's beautiful.
You know, I've had at least two computer businesses,
It's
and
beautiful.
about to get involved in a third. But see, we don't teach our young people to have their own business.
Right.
You know,
And that's
we
I
don't
think
teach.
that's really for real, to be honest with you, I think that's really what we gotten away from, because when you look back in the Black Wall Street and things of that nature, it was so many
Mhm.
entrepreneurs because, even when we looked at us, as segregation and stuff like that, we had to create our own,
Yeah,
so by creating our own, we had to sell our own, you know what I mean, to
yeah,
our
see,
people. So we had no other choice.
yeah. See those my uncle that built his house with his brother. They were
Mm-hmm.
from Georgia.
Mm,
See, down south, we had to do it ourselves.
that's deep.
We had to do it ourselves. So we learned those skills. Uh, Brother from Hepzibah, a master carpenter.
Mm,
He was from Louisiana.
that's deep.
See, in in the South, they had to do it, but in the North, and I understand their agenda, the white folks' agenda, because when they treated black folks so hard that when jobs opened up in the North, that was the Great Migration.
Right.
That was the Great Migration into, you know, Chicago, New York, the big cities in the North. But those were jobs.
Right.
They weren't businesses.
Nor careers.
Yeah. No, no. But I mean they made good money,
Right.
if they got in a union, they would make good money, and but the trades, see, most people don't realize some people in the trades are millionaires
That's right.
because
It's an actual
they make
statistic
good
on it.
money.
They said that you have a higher percentage as a plumber to be a millionaire than a doctor.
Yes, you do.
Because when you coming out of a trade, you are not like loaded down and bear down with student loan debt and all these various things
Right,
that could hinder you from growing wealth. Because I mean, in truth, when you look at the plumbers, especially when they start their own business, I mean, it's so much money that can be made. That's what kind of got me into it. But it's
right.
just like it's not even just with plumbing. It's just when you look at HVAC, when you look at all these various uh trades, like even with brick mason and concrete, these guys make thousands of dollars a day. I mean,
Listen,
just I mean, with an 8 hours day's work, you putting thousands of dollars in your pocket.
yeah. Listen, the trades. Look, if I had gone in the trades, I'd have made more money than I made as a technician.
Mm,
And look, in the '90s, I was making 50, $60,000 a year.
that was good money.
It was good money, but it wasn't as good as if I was in the trades.
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't as good,
And like you
but it was
said,
good.
that's something. This is what I was saying about unifying. Like that's something that you spoke on about us creating our own apprenticeship. Because truthfully, me being into the union, I seen the system, I seen the operation, I seen how these organizations work, and I'm looking at it like, wow, we can apply that same structure in the Hebrew
Hmm.
Israelite community, and and we wouldn't, negate any other black person from joining these,
Right,
unions
Right.
and enrolling into our program. We will actually offer it to anybody that's on the street. But like you said, these are the things that our people need. I wouldn't even say like we go out and feed the people, food that's beautiful. But we need to get the people to where they can earn their own income and make a living for
Right.
themselves.
Right. Like the old saying is, um, if you feed someone a fish, you help him out for that meal. But if you
Right.
teach him how to fish, then
Feed
you
them for
teach
a
him for a
lifetime.
lifetime.
That's Man, that's the truth, and that's one thing we not looking long term in our community too. Like
No,
like you said, there's no, like the scripture said, where there's no vision, the people perish.
people
And
perish.
our vision as a community is just completely lost. It's vague. It's lost. Is that we just living day by day, you know.
Yeah.
But as the thing that I wanted to get from this whole conversation today though was the main thing was us figuring out these plans. That's what the whole podcast is for. The whole actual movement that I'm putting together is to
Hmm.
figure out small steps, because not even just starting, a small apprenticeship that don't, that might take time. But the small steps, like you said, even getting into a trade, trying to get the brothers off the street, because it's more and more brothers that's getting out of jail, they don't have nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like I got
Right.
so many of my family members and stuff like that, but it's so many of the other nations, like white people and stuff like that. They come out as convicts or whatever. They get in these trades and they turn their whole life around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think like you said, just even us spreading this awareness to our people, like you can change your life around by moving in the direction of building. You know what I mean? And that's where I think the
Right.
unification comes with that small step.
Yeah. And the Israelite community is in the perfect situation uh, to do that because most of us live in the heart of you know, the Israelite community, and we're not doing anything. We're standing on the corner preaching, you know, insulting people. Now, how are you going to attract someone by insulting them? You're not teaching them by you know telling them that they're wrong, they're stupid, they're whatever. You don't help them. You don't help them that way. There's an old saying: you attract more bees with honey than more flies with honey than with vinegar. So I mean, we standing on the corner hollering at people. We just like the preachers standing on the corner with a loudspeaker talking about, you know, get
Right,
saved.
right. And that's
So
that's one thing, like you said, we're not teaching the people the power that they have, and like you said, us hollering and screaming, that's not on the track. But if we look at what the scriptures say in Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, the 18th verse, it tells us that the creators give us the power to build wealth. He already gave us the power to do these things that we need to be
yeah,
able to flourish in the systems that we are in.
and, and I have retranslated that passage because get wealth is weak.
Mm,
Okay, it's a weak phrase, and I'll explain that because getting wealth You can rob somebody and get wealth. So that's why I call it a weak phrase.
Hmm.
When I looked at the, because there's the words being used have different meanings in various contexts. So I retranslated that as that the Creator gives us the power to produce substance.
That's right.
And it's still correct in terms of the Hebrew, but it's a more powerful idea that we have the power to produce substance.
Man. And I
So
think that's a good thing to lead to our people even for today's conversation, because I think most people don't realize the power that they have within them, you know. So I think that what we doing, especially with this podcast and what I'm trying to do, is get our people hope. You know, that's
yeah,
what I'm moving for. I'm
yeah,
trying to get the people hope. You know, I know the times we living in right now is real hard, but like you said, he give us the power to get substance, and you know, we're gonna try to move our people, get all the substance we can get.
yeah. And see, it's not only it's not the power to get something; it's the power to produce something.
That's right.
So you can produce from yourself.
That's right.
You don't have to get something means that you take it from somewhere external.
That's right.
You're not producing it from your own self.
That's right.
So getting something is different from producing something.
That's right. And to be honest with you, that will change our people around and change the mindset of becoming a producer instead of a consumer.
Right.
Because
Right.
really, like you said, it's deep that you said that a consumer is a getter. They
Yeah.
they they a getter, you know.
And
But a producer is a producer, a
and,
maker.
and we're the greatest consumers in this land. We that's what we do. We buy stuff, and we buy stuff that we can't afford. I mean, I know people that live in Section 8 housing, and they send their high school students to Miami for uh, graduation,
Mm,
and they spend a lot of money. They spend thousands of dollars, and they buy all the expensive clothes, the designer clothes. But that's what we spend our money on. So we spend poorly. We take in billions of dollars. You know, um, I was looking for my phone so I could Google it, but I don't see it. But we spend billions of dollars,
yeah, I think
and
the last thing they the actual, what is it, 2.2 trillion or
it
something
might
like
have been.
that. It's like up there. It's like $1 trillion now that we
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I think the last time I didn't want to say it because I wasn't sure, but I think the last thing I saw was in the trillions.
Yeah.
Now, you know how much $1 trillion is? I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. I looked it up a while ago. $1 trillion. If you spent $1 million a day from the time of Yeshua you would still have about $250,000 left.
Wow.
That's how much a trillion is. You could spend $1 million a day for 2,000 years
Right. A
and
million,
still
a
have money
trillion
left.
is a million millions.
Yeah.
That's a million
So you could
million.
spend you could spend $1 million a day for 2,000 years and still have money left over. That's how much a trillion is.
Wow. And we just throw it away. We just throwing it away.
Yeah, yeah. We give it to everybody else but ourselves.
But you know what? That's why, like I said, the Hebrew community, we supposed to be the light, and this is the stuff we should be bringing to the attention of our people.
Yes.
So hopefully, like I said, in the future, we continue to actually get the word out, and we continue to move forward. We're actually putting something together to
Mm-hmm.
help our people move forward economically in this country. And then, like you said, with our differences and the various things we might not agree on, we all can agree on some money.
Right. Right. Money and food trump everything.
Oh yeah, that's true. I like food. Like, I don't know nobody else, but me personally, I love some food. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was great having a conversation on the Jeremiah 29 podcast, and we hope to have you back soon. And hopefully, like we can have more conversations on when it comes to dealing with the power that we have within
Well,
us.
I've studied I've studied Torah for uh, what 50 years at least. And my oldest daughter, was born in 1972, and she took her first steps in an Israelite congregation.
Hmm.
So she's 50. I don't know. She's 52, I think, now. And so I haven't. I've been studying this for at least 50 years. But I've studied consciousness and metaphysics for more than 50 years.
Mm.
And so metaphysics and the idea of consciousness was where I understood that power lies in what you believe to be true. Your beliefs, your life is your beliefs made physical.
Mm.
That's what your life is. Your beliefs. It is the expression of your beliefs.
Wow.
So I'm. This is what I teach on my. I have a metaphysics class that I do. Well, we're on vacation right now because I'm working on some other projects. But yeah, I do teach a metaphysics class, um, and the last one ran for about um, it was months. It was maybe close to a year that we were in class, and uh, we went through 3 books, chapter by chapter, on metaphysics. So that's and that will be the subject of the podcast that I have envisioned. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
everybody. I hope they tune in because it's definitely some great information. But like I said, like I said, we're gonna be more than happy over here in the Jeremiah 29 podcast for you to come back. Hopefully, maybe we can have an episode on that.
Yeah, well, anytime, anytime.
All right, nice speaking with you, Elder.
Good speaking with you, brother.
All right, shalom.
All right, shalom.